All right, everybody, welcome to the Real Estate of Tomorrow podcast. I'm Edgardo Ballantyne, and
I'm Scotty Gregorio, the better of the two hosts always.
we know that that's not true. One thing that we have today is we have another person in the podcast, which is Jillian Young. Jillian Young, what would be a quick, I guess, 45-second introduction of who you are? And then I'll fill in the blanks for all the things that you don't want to just boast about, but that we know how amazing you and the company are.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. Really excited to be with you. My name is Jillian Young. I serve as the president and broker of Premiere Plus Realty. We're located in Southwest Florida, and I'm really proud that we serve about 1,500 real estate agents across 6 offices. And we offer 100% commission to our agents because we believe that that's the right thing to do and the right way to run a brokerage. You don't have to sacrifice tools and services and support for money that you shouldn't be spending on all that. So I'm really proud of our company and all that our agents have accomplished, and happy to be with you.
Thank you. And guys, the company is Premiere Plus Realty, which is not a small company, right? It's top 100 in the country. You guys just affiliated with the sixth largest real estate company in America. So, that's awesome. That's amazing. And all of that by being 100% commission. And, we were talking a little bit of air, 100% commission. They still have a very, very strong brand in the luxury market. And Jillian just got nominated and she got the Rising Star for Housing Wire. So, thank you for coming. And look, we thought it would be super appropriate to have not just a rising star, but to have somebody that works and that's leading a large company, especially in what's happening right now, right? There's is no question that the lawsuit came in and the settlement has rocked the boat in the real estate industry. There's a lot of fear. Scott and I are big proponents of, okay, fine, but what are we going to do to take advantage of that? And where I would like to take the conversation today is one, coming from you, the expert on this, give us an idea of where the terms are and what a realtor can and can do, or whatever you can share as far as the lawsuit itself. And then number two, how does a company like yours position themselves to actually be better after the lawsuit? Because everything points to Armageddon when it comes to real estate.
Right. Right. And the truth of the matter is, it's not Armageddon, it's a change. My goodness, if we can get through COVID, we can get through nearly anything. And this is going to be a business practice modification. There are going to
Ooh,
be
I
a
like
couple
that.
of business practice modifications that we have to adapt to at the same time. But one thing I like to say is that we're in the real estate industry. I don't always love saying industry because it's a little derivative. I like saying that we are in the real estate profession. We work hard to keep our license. We work hard to make sure that we know the laws and ethics, and we work really hard to make sure that we put consumers first. So saying that we are real estate professionals in a profession, it just elevates our status a little bit and makes us a little more high-minded when we are faced with changes and these business practice modifications. So if you look at it through that lens, really that's all that it is. It's not a big scary monster. There are things that we need to learn to do, but it's not going to devastate your business unless you just absolutely ignore it and you don't take action and you're not growth minded. And if you're doing that, you're probably not a good real estate agent anyway. So what we need to think about right now is not just how to navigate the particular terms of the settlement and see like everything that we could get away with or circumvent the intent of the settlement, which is what a lot of people are trying to do. I mean, I don't know if you guys see this, but on every flipping coach and software developer and Instagram real estate team influencer, what they're trying to do, the angle that they're doing is saying, okay, I'm going to read the terms of the settlement literally, and then I'm going to try to get as close to or around the terms as possible so I can still do what I want. And that is a very dangerous line to walk. Because if you go a little deeper, and unfortunately, I have a little inside baseball on this, we need to be looking ahead at what is it the DOJ is concerned with, and what is it that our government says is pro-consumer. And we need to be cognizant of making sure that we're not just tiptoeing around the actual terms of the settlement, but that we need to read into the intent of what our prevailing government authorities say is pro-consumer. And as a real estate professional, that's our first job. We need to be pro-consumer, and that's really what we're teaching on. So do we need to adhere to the terms of the settlement? Yes, but we also need to make sure that we are not doing things like steering our buyers, and that we are using language that is could not be construed as anti-competitive. So those are the sort of training and mindset avenues that we're taking here at the brokerage.
Now, question for you. If I'm living under a rock and I just know, I know the buzzword settlement, but I don't really have an idea of what this settlement entails. First of all, you should go watch the episode or listen to the episode that we did on that. But let's say that they're lazy and they don't want to do that. How can you, in, a couple of minutes, just give me like kind of like the cliff notes of that?
Sure. So the National Association of Realtors and a host of other large real estate brokerages were served with what's called an antitrust claim. So meaning that those brokerages and the National Association of Realtors have been accused of violating an antitrust law. And there was a verdict. There was a trial that happened in October, and there was a verdict. Many of us believe that verdict was ruled incorrectly on a, if you want to get technical, on a per se judgment rather than a rule of reason. So there's no intent and no evidence presented. It was just a hard and fast. Could this possibly be antitrust? Yes, guilty. So we're now in this situation where instead of going to an appeals, through the appeals process to repeal the guilty verdict, NAR reached a settlement with plaintiffs' attorneys. And they tried to get as close to what they think the Department of Justice wants without having actual knowledge, because the DOJ hasn't spoken into this issue in a clear way. So in the most simple terms, NAR has said, look, if you want to still be a realtor and have a business doing real estate, now as a realtor member, you have to adhere to the terms of the settlement that we agreed to. And for our purposes here today, there are two main rules that you need to know about. Number one, offers of compensation are going to be removed from all realtor-owned MLSs. There are some MLSs that have nothing to do with the Realtor Association, and those aren't included in the settlement unless they opted in. But for our purposes, if you're a realtor and you are a member of a realtor-run MLS, there will no longer be a buyer broker compensation percentage or flat fee or field or anything in that platform.
So if I'm a realtor, I'm listing a house, I put it in the MLS, I can't put the buyer's agent is going to get 3%.
Or whatever percent.
Or whatever
that the seller agrees to, right?
Okay.
So because it could be, right now you could put 0, and that wasn't far enough for plaintiffs' attorneys. So now you have to know that antitrust violations have to do with the contracts and agreements between competitors that restrain trade to the general public. And so plaintiffs' attorneys believed that the MLS was effectively a contract between competing brokers in order to restrain trade. And obviously we vehemently disagree with that, and think that they're misguided on that. But again, it was ruled as a per se violation, not a rule of reason. So it doesn't really matter what we think. It matters what a jury decided and what plaintiffs' attorneys and NAR agreed to. So if you want to be a realtor and you want to stay in the association and you want to be a member of a realtor-owned MLS, you can no longer put offers of compensation on the MLS. Your seller or your listing broker can still make offers of compensation. You can if you have run your business one way your whole career, and you say, I have a marketing plan that works, that I charge X% of commission to list your property, and as part of my marketing plan, I share a portion of commission with the broker on the other side who brings a buyer, and that has proven to be the most efficient and effective way to get a deal done, you can still do that. The only thing that changes for you is the mechanism by which you communicate that offer. So we just can't do it on the MLS. And I would implore you to just not share it on any platform. Have people call, text you, set up a ManyChat auto responder thing that says, if you want information about this property, comment below, and then send them a DM what the offer of compensation is if they're asking. So people will get creative with all kinds of ways to get around that, and to communicate what that term is. But that's the one that I think is the scariest for everybody. They think buyer commissions are going away.
Right.
There's going to be this major commission compression and all of that. But the mechanics of the deal are still fully negotiable. And so you don't have to, but buyer commissions aren't going away mechanically. Might the market determine that maybe buyers just want to go straight to the listing agent, or listing agents are going to list for less, or could the market determine what happens? Sure, that could happen with any business practice modification, but for now, it's not this big scary thing that commissions are going away.
Okay, so let me jump in here because it's pretty well understood. The mortgage industry went through this, right, with Dodd-Frank. So we've kind of walked this path many years ago, and I don't know how many loan officers would agree with me, but I think a lot of good came out of Dodd-Frank, right? I think the biggest benefit that came out of Dodd-Frank is it got rid of the bad actors, the part-timers, the whatever in my industry, and what was left was the cream. And the public's image of the professionalism of my industry went up exponentially and frankly has stayed up. So let's talk about that, Jillian. Like, what do you think are the wins in this? Because I think with disruption comes both benefit and opportunity. So let's talk about the benefits first.
Yeah, so great point. The second term of the settlement has to do, is really going to determine the cream of the crop, like you say. And the second term of the settlement is that if you are a realtor and you are showing a property that is in a realtor-owned MLS, you have to get a buyer broker agreement executed with your buyer prior to touring the property. So 50% of an agent's business typically is acting as a buyer's agent. So what they'll have to do is, instead of getting a call from a buyer to say, hey, I don't know you, and I'm just looking you up online right now, can you show me this property this afternoon? Buyer's agents will now have to say, well, sure, but I'm going to need to have a conversation with you first. We're going to need to go through maybe a buyer presentation that I've presented to disclose a number of things that I'm required to disclose now, and we're going to have to sign an agreement. That act alone, because a lot of times buyer agents like the non-conflict, or the fact that they don't have to have that uncomfortable listing agent conversation. Now they're in that seat. They're going to have that commission conversation with their buyers if they aren't used to that already, with being from another state where they do require that. So that act, I think, is going to separate the wheat and chaff. Agents that don't want to have uncomfortable commission conversations or can't defend their value proposition will say, my goodness, this is really tough. I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I'll go get a different job. I do think that some of that may happen. So at Premiere Plus Realty, what we think is an advantage to being here is that we have a system and a guide and training and education for those buyers agents to make that conversation not so scary, to teach them about buyer broker agreements, how to protect themselves, how to make sure that the buyer understands what they're doing so that we can be as pro-consumer as possible. And we also, because we don't keep any of their commission, whatever it is that they do agree to, they get to keep. So the house isn't taking 10 to 50% of whatever they make. So they're free to negotiate. We don't dictate, unlike a lot of brokerages, we do not dictate what a consumer will pay the broker. They can list or they can be on the selling side for whatever amount that customer and that agent agree to. And so we really do not consider ourselves a party to that decision. That's between an independent contractor and their customer. So there are other brokerages whose broker policy is to list at a certain percentage, or maybe because they're on a commission split, they're like, well, I've got to give 25% to my broker and I've got a really high transaction fee, so I can't charge less than this. And if I want to feed my family and pay my bills, I've got to charge this. We remove that barrier. So they can truly be the most consumer-centric pricing possible.
Yeah, this is something that I was interested to ask you about, which is, okay, so you're, one of the largest real estate companies in America, definitely, if not the largest, in the top 2 largest here in the area. You're also 100% commission. What is the path forward with something like this? Because it seems to me like with this lawsuit and the noise and all that, a company like yours bigger companies tend to be more in trouble with things like this. So, in talking to you, you're merging with another company that's even larger, or, at least you're working with them. In addition to that, you're acquiring other companies. Like, how does that work?
How does that? Well, there are so many benefits. Which one do you want me to hone in on? So
look, if I'm a real estate agent, I'm looking at larger companies, but with the lawsuit, there's also the fear that, a larger company with 100% commission might not be a great space, but the moves that you guys are making are expanding moves, not moves from somebody that's retrieving. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, Premiere Plus Realty, we are future thinking early adopters, and we take challenges head on, and we through any crisis. From the BP oil crisis, that's when the company blew up, because we took that head on and said real estate sort of came to a halt in Southwest Florida because we had very few relocation clients, a whole host of things, and Premiere just shot to be this. That's really when we started scaling, and through any crisis that we've been through, we grow. And so we think that this is no different because of our core values of putting the agent before the house. We say the broker. It's like when you go to Vegas, the house always wins. We don't think that's right. We think the agent should win. We are pro small business, and agents run their own small business. So every decision that we make is through the lens of what is going to keep the most money in an agent's pocket, what's going to increase their business. So we are always looking for tools, support, and resources. And because we're at scale, because we have so many user seats and so many agents here, we're able to negotiate deals with software companies and other companies that we couldn't do if we only had 100 agents or 200 agents. That's why we can have what we have, is because of our scale. So we are, what I like to say, an operationally excellent company. We can process your transaction. We have incredible broker support. So we are able to be effectively a good foundational back office for an agent to go as far and as fast as they want. We also offer opportunities for them to just be part-time, or they can run their business, and it really doesn't matter to us. We want to see them succeed in whatever that means for them.
Now, Jillian, we have, as everybody knows, billions of listeners.
Right.
all over Earth. And
Whoa.
so let's speak to our listeners, right? So let's say we have
Mhm.
listeners in anywhere USA, maybe not in Southwest Florida, not a member of the PPR family. I guess two fronts on this, right? Like, what advice would you give to a newer agent? And then what advice would you give to a successful seasoned agent? Because I feel like there's opportunities with both, but they're different. So what advice would you give to those two avatars?
Okay, so for a new agent, that's a great question. I'm going to go with my daughter's second grade class motto, which was readers are leaders. So if you want to be a successful real estate professional in 2024, you're coming into a challenging market, and you need to make sure that you are a voracious reader of policies, procedures, ethics. You need to be a student of the market. You need to take a year or two to just absorb information, because you are handling a very serious asset on behalf of another human. So you need to take that seriously. We're not out here sneezing and selling real estate like we did in 2020, 2021. We need to be very thoughtful and careful with how you present yourself, with the information you put in your head, and make sure that you have a good mentor and a good training program, which we have here at Premiere Plus Realty. We have a proven path where we've taken people from their full-time 9 to 5 into making six figures within their first year and a half in real estate. So you need to make sure that you have a broker and a person that you can rely on to help answer your questions. But I would spend, my goodness, a few hours a day just reading your state realtor association information about your local laws and what's important in your area, and then study the market. So that would be my advice to newly licensed agents. For seasoned agents, the biggest problem I see is that there's a hubris. And by the way, like, dark clouds just came through my window, and I feel like I'm in a cave right now. So like none of the sunlight that was here is gone. It looks like I'm in a cave in a desert or something. Anyway, so for seasoned agents, what I would say, and the thing that I see the most, is that there's a hubris or a pride that comes because they've made it in their mind. They're really good with people, or they've figured out that they're really good at knowing creative financing options, or they're really good at knowing little tips and tricks that are going to help their customers. So they have their thing in their area, and they're maybe late adopters to any policy changes or business practice modifications. So because they are paying their mortgage and their bills and supporting their family in this full-time real estate business, they don't want their cheese moved too quickly. And so probably the most frustrated agents, the ones who freak out the quickest, are the ones who feel like they have everything to lose. So making sure that we're a little more pliable and adaptable as seasoned professionals, to know that you don't know everything, and that's okay. And we're all learning together, and it's okay to ask questions. You don't have to look like you have it all together, and we're going to figure this thing out, and you can still have your full-time income and have a thriving business. You just might have to go back to your roots of spending a little more time reading every day and figuring out what it is that you need to do to pivot and move forward. That's what I would say.
Okay. And one more question that's on my mind is, let's get in our time machine and let's fast forward 5 years. Okay. What
Rates are super low.
Yeah, rates are low. Life is good. But how is the real estate profession different 5 years from now versus today? And I mean, obviously, speculation, right? So nobody has facts on this, but talk to me about that in terms of number of agents, public's perception of the professionalism, ability to make money. Has it gone up or gone down? Like all of those types of things, Jillian.
It's a really good question, and I think
I have a lot of really good questions.
yeah, in an election year, I think that's a very poignant question, because a lot of the DOJ's probing into this. I don't know if you read the Huffington Post article today about, anyway, maybe I just shouldn't even get into that, but
Get into it.
let me just say this. There are people that are anti NAR. And trust me, as a large brokerage in the soup of all of this, I have my beef with having to pay the piper on this, so to speak. So I'm not excited about everything with NAR, but I will say this. I am very happy that real estate agents, because of NAR's lobbying, can remain 1099 independent contractors, because our legislature would like for them to be W-2 employees. Could you imagine? We would have.
We can.
We can't. We would have 300,000 real estate agents instead of 1.3 million. So we need the most powerful lobbying group in Washington, D.C. to protect small business owners, which are real estate agents, and private property rights. So we need NAR. Do I think that any term rule change causes a dip in the profession? Yeah, just like we talked about. I think that there are going to be people who say, this is like a lot to keep up with. I'm just going to do an early retirement, maybe just become a referral agent. So I think that we could see less real estate professionals who maybe didn't want this to be their full-time profession anyway. But those who are passionate about what they do, who don't mind learning, they're going to win in this. So I think that we'll have more production per agent in 5 years, as part-time agents and those who frankly don't comply with the terms of the settlement and get in trouble, and don't want to deal with it. I think that a good number of agents will fall off, and the agents that remain are going to have more production per agent. What I think the housing market's going to do, are we going to have 4 million homes or 4.5 million homes sold, or whatever the case may be? To be honest, I got a C in economics, so I do my best to interpret and predict for our real estate agents, but I couldn't speak to that. But yeah.
So you see fewer agents. The agents that are remaining are maybe more professional. They have higher income opportunities.
Right.
And I agree with you. I don't know that this has any bearing on the housing market itself, like how many homes are bought and sold, because I think that's consumer driven. What about it? We're not going to talk numbers or anything, but do you think as a general consensus, commissions will be lower? And I ask that question because, when this whole thing, we've been following this for years. And when this whole thing,
yes, you have.
Yeah, when this whole thing was early on, Washington State changed their rules pretty quickly. And that was the thing. And we talked about that in our first episode, but the first episode we talked about the lawsuit. And my contention at the point was, this lawsuit has to have some pretty sharp teeth for one of the states to have changed their rules just on the existence of it. And but what's interesting is, although there's a lot of talk that real estate commissions by and large will come down from this, and I personally think there's a very sound argument for that, I went in and looked at what happened in Washington State, and there wasn't a material impact on that subject. So do you think, without talking numbers or crossing lines that we obviously can't cross, do you think as a rule of thumb that there is a chance of downward pressure on commissions across the country?
Initially, there may be some downward pressure on a listing agent to take a listing for less because a consumer has read a headline news article and doesn't fully understand. A listing agent may have to work a little bit harder to help the seller understand their marketing plan. And of course, the listing agent is going to have to say, hey, seller, you're the boss, you're driving the train. This is what I charge, and these are the services that I provide. This is what I do. This is my small business. But if we can't agree, the agency, they're going to have to move a little, or the seller will have to find another listing agent to work with if that's what they believe. It's really, the onus will be on the listing agent to present a case for the services that they provide. I know listing agents that charge a lot more than what the general market charges, because they offer concierge moving services and staging services and cleaning services and contractor services and things like that. So if you look at Premiere Plus Realty, our variability within commissions because of our business model is so vast already. We will have and because we authorize to waive 100% commission if someone's doing a friend or family deal or a personal deal, we see a full spectrum. So I think that that's going to stay the same. I think the conversation that happens with a listing agent and a seller will be completely dependent upon what that property needs and what that listing agent's willing to do. Do I think for a short time that listing agents will say, you know what, maybe I will be okay with charging less than I normally would, in hopes that maybe the buyer will come straight to me. And I could, as a transaction broker, represent the deal and facilitate both sides. Sure, there could be some commission compression if that's the route that a listing agent wants to take. And they're really driving the bus on what they are willing to charge in their business. But if the market demands that commissions go lower, like if sellers are saying, yeah, no, I really don't want to pay more than this, then that's what we have to do. But I would say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, look at the equity that your home has acquired in the last 4 or 5 years that you've lived here. And this is what it's going to take in a tough market right now. We're in a balanced market. We have buyers who are not as eager at this moment. So this is what it's going to take for me to market your property, and this is what I charge for that. I think a seller is going to look at the equity in their home and look at this professional and say, oh, that's worth what you normally charge.
Right. Now, I have one more question, and then I'll kick it back to you. Lots of talk about agents needing a buyer presentation deck. Or system, and this is something that and you've seen ours. We've created this here at Neo Home Loans for our agent partners, but for the unfortunate people that are not working with Edgardo and I, what advice, or what do you, if you were making you're advising your agents to create a buyer presentation deck, what do you feel are, let's speak to the agents that are like, okay, I got to create this thing. I don't even know where to freaking start. What are some of the high level subject areas that you think must be included in that? Obviously the value prop, but deeper than that. Like, what does that mean?
Man, you have really great questions. So and I'll stop saying that, but I just really appreciate your thoughtfulness, because I've had a lot of conversations about this, and either people don't care or they're uninformed. So in a buyer presentation, I'm putting my broker hat on right now, just not wanting to get sued.
Good idea.
Right. So we have to remember, and we're in Florida right now. We are a presumed transaction broker state. It astonishes me how many agents don't know what their statutory duties are as a transaction broker and what they are not. So if you're taking a listing and you are acting as a single agent, but on paper you're a transaction broker, and then you have a buyer come through that door and you are now facilitating both sides, you have become a fiduciary on the seller side and a transaction broker on the buyer side. Guess what? That's illegal in Florida. You are dangerously close to dual agency. So my recommendation is that agents have to educate their sellers in their buyers in a buyer presentation on what agency is, and let buyers know, okay, I'm a transaction broker. These are the duties that I owe you. A buyer is going to look at that and say, well, that doesn't seem like you have full obedience, full loyalty, full confidentiality. You're not my fiduciary. I'm not signing a piece of paper with someone that says, I just represent the transaction. And the buyer is going to have to figure out their objection statement to that, which is, if you're at Premiere Plus Realty, we have the most, I work at a brokerage that has the most listings in the area that you're looking for. So if you want to walk through the doors of one of my brokerage's listings, then in Florida, we legally have to be a transaction broker. So I think presenting in the buyer presentation needs to talk about agency law.
Okay.
And we need to explain what we do and what we don't do. And if you there's no law that says you can't offer single agent duties on a transaction broker contract, but you better not be crossing that line if your broker is representing both sides. So to get over the hump of staying as a transaction broker, which is what we recommend doing, you need to up your value prop pages. There needs to be 4 or 5 pages about all the hustle that you will do on their behalf. And I'm recommending maybe even 1 or 2 or 3 programs or services that the buyer's agent offers, and say, okay, level 1, I can work for a flat fee. I'll show you this many homes, and this is what I'll do. So if you're on the lower end, then these are the limited services I provide. If you'd like for me to do this is number 2. I offer moving services, cleaning services, concierge. I will yada yada yada. There are a host of things that you can think through. Maybe you're like a finance brain and you take them to a wealth management person to get a consultation, or maybe you're really great at fix and flip and you have a whole host of vendors, and I'll give you access to my general contractor and all of their subcontractors to work this property. So I think the buyer's agent's going to have to think creatively about, I've just disclosed that I'm a transaction broker, and I've explained this to the buyer, which they have a right to know. And they're not going to totally understand it. And they're going to say, okay, well, that seems like that kind of stinks for me. What else are you going to do for me? Now you've got to amp up your value prop. And then you need to explain all the ways that you could get paid. Hey, you could pay me out of pocket. Let's try to avoid that. We could ask a seller for a concession. You need to be able to clearly explain how you'll get paid and what you'll get paid. And then I do think that you need to make sure that the buyer's presentation includes that all commissions are negotiable. Hey, buyer, you need to know there's no standard commission rate. The seller, we will have no idea what the seller is paying the listing broker. All we'll know is if they're offering us something on the other side. And it's all negotiable. It's negotiable until the day of closing.
Right.
So we can hem and haw and go back and forth and work the deal until it closes. So you should know that this is what I charge. If you don't like it, or we don't work together, you should know this is not a standard. You could go to the other agent, and maybe they'll charge less, but you should know this is what I charge, and I'm worth it because. I heard on your buyer presentation that you guys weren't a super fan of the NAR 179 ways to, things buyer's agent does for a buyer. I agree with you. I think it was just very platitude. Like, this is a general idea.
We open doors, we close doors. We
close doors. We pay a Supra fee.
We turn the lights off when we leave.
Turn the light, yeah. So I think a buyer's agent between now and when you start doing a buyer presentation is you just need to log every single thing that you do. It's 11 p.m. and I'm up scrolling properties. It's whatever it is. So I think that you need to keep a correct accounting and then figure out, what did I go to school for? What do I really enjoy doing? How can I take my past professional experience, or how can I take good experiences that I've had working the buy side that I can bring into what's my secret sauce for what I tangibly do, and then add that to the buyer presentation.
Love it.
Jillian, a question. If I am in a small brokerage, or let's say I'm a small team or a small brokerage, and I see this happening and I go, okay, maybe it's a good time to join forces with a company like yours, right?
Mhm.
Because I want to be able to provide 100% commission. I want to be under the umbrella of a bigger company to get access to all those tools and things like that. I want the marketing, the technology, all those things, and the training that you guys provide. Is that possible? Are you guys expanding?
Mhm.
How does that work? Do you need to be in the area? Like, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we are open for business. Uh, we are actively doing fold-ins, tuck-ins, mergers, that sort of thing. We have the capacity and ability to take on a team, a small team, or a medium-sized brokerage right now. So operationally, we could onboard hundreds of agents if we need to and serve them. So they should just call me and we'll work it out. Because here's the thing with our philosophy is that we're so team friendly that if we have a broker right now who's going, you know what, this is very expensive. I don't want to carry E&O insurance. I don't want to carry general liability, but I want to maintain my brand and who I am and my leadership style and the way that I like to do things. Our philosophy when doing that is we don't come into a situation like that saying, hey, we don't like who you are and we're going to change everything.
Right.
It's very much a relationship where we say, what are your pain points? What is it that you'd like to do? And how can we enhance what you're already doing? So if you want to keep your name, great. We can work that out. We have a back office boutique brokerage program that they could even keep their own brokerage and we just handle the back office side of things if that's what they prefer, or just offload all of that overhead expense, come over, keep your team name, operate the way that you want to, and we will provide all of the tech stack, the broker support, the tools, all of the things that we already do. So every situation is different, and I would just say that because uh, we don't think that we can do anything better than anyone else, because if someone has a brokerage and they've been successful for 20 years, then they should just keep doing what they're doing and just let us come alongside them and enhance what they're doing, make it easier, offload those pain points, and they can just keep on trucking until they retire. So, yeah, we're actively talking to brokerages and teams constantly, and we've been successful in bringing some of them over, and hopefully soon we'll have more. But we would love to talk about that.
Awesome. So we've learned that this is a BPM, which is a big a business practice modification, and not a BSM, which is a big scary monster. I love that. Those are my notes.
Nice. Nice. I think you could do a whole class on that, like big scary monster versus just a little.
BPM instead of
Yeah,
BSM. We can
right.
put slides together. We can do a great presentation on
Perfect.
that. Well, Jillian, thank you so much for coming over. I think it's important to see what the leaders in the industry are doing when tackling things like this, right? Especially, we wanted to talk to you particularly because we know you're growing. It seems like you're making more moves to grow now after the whole settlement than before, at least from the outside looking in, which is impressive, unexpected, and it's exciting at least to see that there's a path forward and there's a growth opportunity for
Mhm.
real estate agents that are in the right position to take advantage of this. Anything else to add, Scott?
No, man, I think this was really good, and I love it. We got to bring a couple of top agents in too, right? I think it's so important that we're getting perspectives from different areas of the industry. Like, we very much have our firm opinion on the subject, but it's great to hear it from one of the industry leaders on the other side of
The rising star.
Yes. So, yeah, Jillian, I mean, thank you for your time, and to the audience, thank you for listening. I mean, look, we encourage everybody, share this episode around your office. I feel this is an opportunity for everybody to level up their game. I feel like this is an opportunity for real estate professionals and mortgage professionals to work hand in hand in a in a tighter way than ever before. And I think a lot of growth opportunities come anytime there's a lot of disruption. So, Jillian, I just can't thank you enough for your candidness, your openness, and frankly, your leadership in the industry. So thank you.
We'll put Jillian's information on the comments, and then you can ask her any questions you want. And thank you so much.
Almost any question. But thank you very much for having me on today. This was an honor. And if you didn't know, Neo Home Loans and Edgardo and Scott are Premiere Plus Realty's preferred lender. We are more than just preferred vendor relationship. They are our one and only, our affiliated business partner. And I've used them personally for my home purchase, and it was an incredible experience. So much so that I wanted all of our agents' customers to experience what I did. So couldn't be more grateful that we get to partner with you guys. And for anyone listening, I'm happy to talk to your office about the business practice modification instead of the big scary monster, if that's something that you need or find valuable.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. Hey, thank you for listening. This is the greatest podcast in the real estate industry. You know it. We know it. Everybody knows it. Tune in again in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Real Estate of Tomorrow podcast, where we like to ask you the question, what are you doing today to stay relevant tomorrow? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.